Okay, this is a video for 3 very expensive earphones, but you should watch this because I am not beholden to anybody. I paid full price for all of these earphones, and I'm not happy about some things, and I'm happy about others. The 3 sets that we're going to talk about today are the Empire Ears EVO, which is brand new, the Oriolus Traillii, I think that's how it's pronounced. Very expensive set, loved it. And the Elysian Acoustic Labs X, which is right there. So let's talk about packaging first. The packaging on the EVO is notable, and I'm going to talk about this at the end of the video because I'm very not pleased at all with how this came. Usually Empire Ears has a kind of like a stack thing, and they have the earphones in the typical presentation where the buds are stuck into foam and then the wires are round and then stuck up behind it. So it keeps the shells away from each other, and also it's kind of nice as a display. And then underneath is a drawer that contains this. With the EVO, they just put the earphones right into... I'm going to show you this in the video. And this is not as bad as what I got. You open this up, and it's got fingerprints and gunk all over it. You can see it right there. I was so pissed about this. I did another video last night, but I decided don't even do it. So it comes in this, and then you open it up. And inside this is different from mine because what I did was, I'll just go ahead and open it up. I separated this part, which is the shells, and the 4.4 termination, so that the 4.4 is behind the plastic. When I pulled this out of the packaging, these were just stuffed into this bag like that, with the 4.4 touching the shells. I paid $3,300 for this, and it was jammed into this. It wasn't even coiled up like this. It was literally just jammed in. It could have scratched the shells, and it didn't. But that was just ridiculously bad. If you're going to do like this, please use the covers or the socks that Campfire Audio and Final Audio, and a lot of companies take care of this stuff, and this was ridiculous. And Jack Vang, I talked to privately and directly, and did something happen wrong here? Is this the way it's going to be? Because there's going to be people really upset when they open this up, especially if somebody gets a scratch. This is feedback. Doing it publicly helps the company, whether you think so when you're hearing this or not. You think I'm slamming. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. Try getting these shells and these cables into this when you get it, and tell me that that's not a snug fit. Now, put your connector, your terminator, right next to your shells. I don't think you would do that, because why would you invite a scratch on a $3,000 earphone? I was really not cool with that. On packaging, this is a fail. Who cares? I do, because there's the possibility, very slim, that when you open it up, something could happen if they continue to do this. It's plastic resin with a nice coating on it, and those 4.4 terminations are made out of metal. You rub those up, the stronger one's going to win. That's going to be the 4.4, whatever you got, 3.5, 2.5. No. I don't have the package for the Elysian X because I was told if you want the package, you have to wait. And I don't like waiting, so I said, just send it to me, dude. He said, okay. But this is how it's going to come when you get it. It's going to have something similar to like the Z1R with the drawers, and one part's going to have the IEMs, probably the top, and then under that you're going to have tips and cables, etc. So this is the way that it's going to be delivered. Looks really good, and my box is going to be sent later. I can't comment on it directly. As it was sent with the buds individually wrapped, like I would like that to be, and the cable, which is not the final cable. So everything was fine with that. Didn't have a problem with it. Didn't have a holy crap moment looking for scratches like I did with this set. So packaging is a win over that just by looking at it, because they're separating the buds from everything else for visual purposes. But for me, nothing's going to touch something else. So I think that's a good thing. This is the bird. I thought this was really ghetto and simple when I bought it, because it's $6,000, man. That's all you get. You get this little brown box, and it's wrapped in plastic. Or you take this, you open this box, and then inside it, you've got this wrapped in a very thin, like a toy, and then you open it up, and it's got a nice Van Nuys case. And I was very disappointed. Now that I look at how Empire Ears is doing it, however, I thought this is fine with me. It's a nice soft case. It's light. These buds are separated. They are not going to touch. Notice this, because this is done intentionally. You don't want these clanking into each other, and they're wrapped with like a cellophane plastic perfectly. So they're wrapped individually, so you can't even get your fingerprints. You got to unwrap these, and then they're physically separated the way all IEMs should be. And when you're paying thousands of dollars, that's ridiculous. And that's, if please look at the package, because there's no other way to put the buds in the package. That has to go inside that little cup. Mine was stuck in a bubble wrap that has no more bubbles because there's no room for that. And Empire Ears didn't separate it. So if we're going to talk about packaging, this is a disaster waiting to happen. Please wrap these up or do something. Or when you do it, do what I did, which is stick the metal termination at the bottom, and then stick these in the plastic and just keep them separate for the hell of it. I wanted to wrap these up in socks, so I did this myself. And it's still not ideal because those can touch. Do you think that's too much time spent on packaging? Talk to somebody who's saving money for a $1,500 set like the Mess or something else. There's some people that save a year or longer for this gear. This is a big deal. If you open this up and you were one out of the 100 or maybe one out of 1,000 that gets that scratch, because that's what happens when metal rubs against plastic, that would suck horribly. And I almost thought that happened to me, but it didn't. But we'll get out of packaging. I'd say that the X packaging looks like it's going to be excellent. That's just based on visual. Mine came, but it didn't come like that. And the Van Nuys case for the bird is actually perfect. You don't really need that big a deal. So that's packaging. This is obviously excellent. Looks like the X is going to be just bonkers with the presentation. And the Empire Ears was really, unfortunately, not really very good when it came to that. Next, let's talk about the IEMs themselves. First is going to be the Elysian Acoustic X. It's a single dynamic driver. It's got 4 balanced armatures, 4 ESTs, which is critical apparently to me because I love EST tuning. Top of class tuning, bass to upper treble. The whole thing is done fantastic. Excels in all manner. Wait time is long. There is not a clear weakness to this set. It's got elevated sub bass over mid bass. It's got a very, very smooth gradual decline as it gets to the mids. It's got a short porch that I call it in the mids, and then it's got a very, again, gradual gain, but in the ear gain region. It's got energy. It's got a slight dip. And it's got another slight. These are not a couple of resonance peaks because that's not how they're shaped. They usually look like a spike. This has legitimate extension all the way up the scale. Do you need that? No, probably not, depending on your library. It's nice to have there because it does give a sense of air, and it does give energy to live performances when there's stuff like crowds clapping and other things like that. So tuning is, if you can afford $4,000 for IEMs, I would highly recommend this set. Period. Oh, by the way, if you look at that and you say that's not the X, that's the gold cap. The 4 ESTs are in the nozzle. Don't worry about it. That is, I requested the gold caps because I think they're gorgeous. Next is going to be the Bird. This is an 8 BA 4 EST, again 4 EST, taking care of the treble. Slightly warm tuning. It's got a warm, engaging type tuning. Excels at vocals. If you're really vocal centric and you love vocals, I don't think that anything touches this set. It's absolutely mind-blowing for a person like me that has a library like mine, which is all vocals. You got Pink Floyd right there. I won't call it. Robert Palmer, Sneaking Sally Through the Alley. Pink Floyd. Everything. All of my library has vocals. I'm going to stop on Queen because one of the tracks I'm going to use to evaluate this is Crazy Little Thing Called Love. I love it because it's got a slight echo effect to the vocals in the production version. It's got a rockabilly type of guitar solo, and it's got harmonizing between maybe 2, 3, 4 vocalists. I'm not really sure, but it's got that echo effect that sounds loud, and sometimes with stuff that's got a little bit precipitous roll off around 8K or off, it tightens up the replay of this. And it's also got clapping in there, which adds to that spacious effect. So this is not a big live performance, but it kind of sounds like that. It's very unique, and I listened to it a lot and listened to some other tracks to do this evaluation, but I thought, no, this is perfect. I'm going to go with this because I love the vocals in it. I love the strum guitar at the beginning. I love the rockabilly type of solo that's going on. And just love the whole thing. Get back over here. So I'm going to be using Dire Straits, Sultans of Swing, Fleetwood Mac, Dreams, Queen, Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Let's get back to the pictures. So this is, it's excellent vocals, instrumentals, micro details. Although it's slightly warm, it's got every detail that I'm looking for, like OCD level and fingers sliding on strings. It does all of that stuff. Bass can lack impact at times. Because it's balanced armature bass, it's the one thing that I feel it lacks. But it's so strong in every other way that I'm okay with that. It's a set that I would have alongside the X or the Mess Mark II. So I'm not mentioning the Mess Mark II because there was a little dramas between Empire Ears and UM, and I'm not going to get into that, so I'm not going to address that. If you want to ask questions about the Mark II below the video, go ahead. I'm just not going to create that drama because I don't need to. I got 2 other sets that I can compare. And the price is $5,000 to $6,000. It's very expensive. And again, I sat here at this desk, paid full price, looked at it, did the whole thing like I'm doing with this, and I was totally satisfied and did a video that was very praiseworthy and concluded that it's up to your wallet and how much money you got. But it's a good set. As you can see by the graph, it's very reasonably balanced. It's got a dip around the upper mid treble crossover, but it's toning down harmonics and has a really, really beautiful effect on the set. This is the set that's new. This is the Empire Ears EVO. It's got 2 dynamic drivers, 5 balanced armatures, and 1 bone conduction driver, which you can see right there. I describe it as extremely fun tuning, in quotes. Great micro detail. You can get all of the micro detail. It's very energetic. Bass can take over the replay. Nice typo right there. Take over the replay. Treble gain can be shouty for some. I think for everybody, really. It's depending on how much that bothers you. Packaging is very poor. I already went over that. Price is $3,300 approximately. As you can see by looking at the graph, it is a very bassy set. It is very much like the original LX. It's got actually more gain than the Odin, which a lot of people found to be a problem with that. So keep that in mind. This is the most V-shaped of the sets. Continuing, there's the graph for the EVO. There's the Acoustic X, and there's the Traillii. You can see it's literally a big V. Tone that down, smooth that down. The 3 albums, Queen's Greatest Hits 1, 2, and 3, Fleetwood Mac Rumors, and Dire Straits. And let's go ahead and close that down. The first one we're going to start with is Dire Straits. And I'm listening to this, as I always do, because I love the song, first of all. And it's got a great bass guitar line in it. And you can go ahead and listen to this online or your own version. If you lift up the mid bass, you can take the guitarist. This is the bassist right here. There is let me stop it right here. When you elevate the mid bass, so he's separate over here. He's doing a very strong line. He's mixed into this solidly. He's really pinning down the track. A lot of times drummers do that, or bassists, or they do it together. The bassist is clearly doing it on this track. With the X, the sense that these 2 instruments are separate, the lead guitarist and the vocalist, Mark Knopfler, and the bassist, because of the sub-bass emphasis and the gradual mid-bass to the mids, they always sound like they're being done correctly to my ears, and that is that I can hear the bassist clearly, I can hear Mark clearly, and they don't sound like they're being put too close together because of the mid-bass elevation. They sound like they are appropriately placed and separated and doing their job. It's a very, very enjoyable listen. Listening to this same track with the Bird, which I would put in second place, it's notable that the bassist is a little bit, relative to the X or other sets that might have slightly up sub-bass, it sounds like the bassist is just a little bit back more than I would ideally like in this track. But if I'm going to take that or push them together, I would take that. So the bass play on the X is better. I think that everything else, the guitar, Mark's vocals, the Bird is right there with the X. There's really not much of a difference. The difference comes between the 3 sets when we talk about, there's the hi-hat open and closing, which is another IC. Okay, here's the stage that we're looking at. This is typical, like rock. If you've been to shows, John Paul Jones would usually be on your left if you're looking from the crowd. Robert Plant sans the guitar would be right here, and Jimmy Page would start here and then move around the stage, do a lot of walking, while John Paul Jones would tend to be pretty stationary, stay on the left side of Robert Plant. And John Bonham would be behind Robert Plant, maybe slightly risen, depends on what show you're looking at. But this is pretty typical. Listening to the X sounds like what I'm looking at. I can hear the bassist prominent. He sounds like he's depth-wise about the same as Mark, loud, pinning down the track, sounds quite good. When I listen to this on the Bird, it sounds like he is just a little bit slightly de-emphasized. That's not a psychoacoustic illusion that I'm making up because I'm looking at a graph. I thought that when I listened to it. If the Traillii did DD like bass, it would be the perfect set because it does vocals like nothing else does. But it does, in fact, suffer from a little bit of soft bass, just a little bit. And this is a track where that will display it. Is it enough to be a problem? Fuck no, it's not. But I'm trying to give you the differences between sets. Now, when we talk about the set that's right here, the EVO, because you've got elevated mid-bass, extremely elevated mid-bass, really, it sounds like you're putting him right next to Mark, because the bass guitar and Mark's vocals at certain points are kind of overlapping, and they sound like they are. Whereas the Elysian X and the Bird do not ever make these two sound like they're right up next to each other. The EVO does do that, and all sets that have extreme bass elevation will do that. Manipulation of the mid-bass will exactly and specifically give the illusion that you are moving the basses closer to the lead singer. That's the way it goes. That's the same as saying if there's no elevation past 8K, it's going to sound intimate. That's a polite word. Or kind of close in, because there is information and there is manipulation that can be done after 8K that can give you the false sense of air and space when you have earplugs in your ear, because they're blocking out everything else. So you don't really have air and space. It's giving you the illusion. Psychoacoustics, it's a science. So playing with the mid-bass can literally play with this instrument and make it sound like it's closer to the lead singer. Ideal replay is with the Elysian X. It's perfect. Second and very close and maybe better for vocals would be the Bird. And then the least ideal would be the EVO, because it literally pushes the bassist closer to Mark Knopfler and the guitarist. It's audible to the ear. It's not exclusive to the EVO. I've talked about this in other videos. That's what that track is used for, is for that right there. So let me go close that down and I'll get out of there. So Sultans of Swing, the bass guitar, I would rank that as the X being the best replay overall, and the Bird only slightly different because of the way that it's got BA bass, the way that it's got BA bass. And then the EVO would be third of the three because of its bass emphasis. Doesn't play well with something like that. Next one we're going to look at is Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. Let's go ahead and slide Fleetwood Mac. That would be this album right here, Rumors. And we're looking at a track called Dreams. And if you were to take this and you were to listen to, this is the DSD, I'm sure the timestamp is really not different. This reviewer is focusing on timestamp that starts at about 16 seconds, and it's Stevie Nicks, and she is right about here. And here you go again, you say you want your freedom, burn. I keep my... That freedom, when there's emphasis in the gain region, it makes Stevie Nicks sound non-ideal to me. She doesn't sound normal. There's an emphasis to her vocals that's being put on in the gain region between 1 and 4K that sounds unnatural, fatiguing. When it's done with BAs, it's pretty bad, actually. This is... they're taking this set and they are elevating the gain region extremely. Let me throw up my target just for the hell of it. Can you? I don't know if you can see it. I can't see it for some reason. That's my bad guy target. I can't see it. The gain region for the vocals, if this is elevated, the part of the reason that they do gain for a lot of people that have libraries like mine is because if you don't do that, you're going to kind of box and pull back the vocals so that they sound like they're in a room that's away from you with the rest of the band, because you're not giving emphasis to anything. The ear gain region helps a lot with a proper presentation of vocals. Overdoing that creates what they call, a lot of people refer to it as shouty. And I would agree with that. One of the negatives that was assigned to the Odin by a lot of people is that it had a little bit of shout. go up, go check it. Go check my video and the date that I posted it for the Odin. Go check other ones that were done prior and after. It's what most people agree is probably the weak point. And it's got a graph that looks, let's take a look at it because I got it graphed. There's the Odin. Change the color to the green. It's up there. It's got quite a lot of energy. Let me go ahead and take that down now. That was what people were considering to be the weak point, and a visual demonstration of that is Fleetwood Mac Dreams. It's in any vocal replay, actually. I could take any number of songs. I could go with Philadelphia Freedom. Philadelphia Free. He did the same thing. Elton John was on me. The vocal replay for something like Dreams, like I'm showing you right now, would be ideal on the Bird. So instead of the first song, which was Dire Straits, where I think it's the X, and then it's the Bird, and then it's the EVO, I think this is where the Bird shines. Vocals are absolutely exceptional. If we take a look at the graph again, let me see if I can mute the other two. You have very subdued but present gain, very gradual and smooth. There's no jutting or drop. And then you've got this cut right here, which when I first saw it, I thought that's going to be odd. I saw the graph and then I listened to it, and then I just fell in love with the set and became convinced that the de-emphasis of certain parts of vocal harmonics are authentic replay of it. It's not, you don't need a perfect, I don't know why that's not coming. You don't need a perfect smooth bowl like a Harman or like My Ideal Curve or like others. This actually has great benefit, and for all vocals that I listen to, it was the Bird is the king for vocals. And then after that would be the X, which is not much different. It's just that the Bird is just amazing. It's absolutely fantastic. Let me go ahead and throw in the X. It's not radically different, but it's got some more energy. I don't find it to be fatiguing. And again, the X is the winner when it comes into the bass, and the mids are probably a wash. The upper mid, the way that it's being treated, I think the Bird is just, I'm a huge fan. I think after that would be the X. The X would be overall my probably ideal profile in general. This would be just the beauty. And then the one that I wouldn't, this is this bass and this is vocals, and this is where it happens, and the track is called Dreams, and the timestamp is 16:23, but it occurs in everything that I listen to that has vocals. It's overemphasizing part of the vocals, and it's not enjoyable for me. It's fun. It's fun for me, but by talking about the Bird and the X, you start to get that. People say, oh, he's a bass head. Yeah, I like my bass, because that's what you hear when you go to a live show. That's when you hear. Low frequency energy is, I have no idea why some people seem to be wanting it subdued to a level that's not high fidelity, because high fidelity is faithful reproduction, and faithful reproduction is what an audiophile is supposed to be looking for. A bass drum, a kick drum sounds like it's got a lot of bass. Bass guitar sounds like that too. Vocals need that. There's low frequency energy needs to be done. So Dreams is the example given, and that would be the Bird would be over the X, would be over the EVO. And let me go ahead and close that out. This is Crazy Little Thing Called Love. You can see him straight. Brian May, bassist. This is the live version. If you listen to this on the album, which is what I'm basing my opinion on, I just wanted to give you a visual of that real quick. It's got some notable things. One is that the vocals seem to be processed, tweaked to give it a slight kind of echo effect. But if you have no idea what I'm talking about, listen to the track. Listen to a regular track by Queen or anybody else, Freddie Mercury, and then listen to Crazy Little Thing Called Love. They did some kind of post-production effects on his vocals, and it gives it kind of a slight echo effect. And then later the rockabilly comes in at about a 1:20 timestamp. It just sounds fucking excellent. And then there's a clapping and echo that comes on. Then they do their kind of harmonizing, and it sounds like a really big production, actually, even though it's a studio produced track. It sounds bigger than that, and something like that really is in the X's wheelhouse because of the extension that goes all the way up the chart. It does in fact have a bigger presentation and natural, a little bit over the Bird. and I prefer something like this that's got maybe effects or live presentations with crowds, and the X does better than the Bird in that. Whereas the Bird might be slightly better for vocals overall, I think that the X has a, if I'm listening to just all of my library, I'm going to go with the X because it's got the dynamic driver bass and it's got extension all the way up to scale, because I might not need it, but sometimes I do. And on a track like Queen, which I'm looking at right here, I think that the X plays this back just a little bit better than just the whole thing. Look at that jam. I've never seen this video till today. Let them fucking go. That is dope. I love music so much. The X plays this back a little bit better. If I were to isolate, even if I took Freddie Mercury and isolated him and said, I'm just going to focus on vocals, the Bird's strong point, because of the slightly, there's people that play instruments and also do production in my audience that watch this. Listen to Freddie's, you already know this, on that album. They've done an effect to him. I don't know what you can call it. You can mention it below, but it's giving a sense of being in a bigger room than where he's probably recording himself. They did that. It's obvious to the ear. Listening to something that's got a little more extension, I can get that effect a little bit more. And then part of the rockabilly, Brian May doing the guitar, and it sounds a little more complete than what the Bird's doing. But the Bird, if I didn't have the X, I could be fine with the Bird, because the bass track on this is, actually the bassist on this is pretty prominent, to the point where it's kind of like the Dire Straits track. But I wasn't really focusing on that. Or was I not thinking? Because I'm taking the X on this one over the Bird. But I was assigning that to the virtual room that I was perceiving being bigger on the X. But the bassist is probably better on that as well. But I didn't really write that down or cite that. So I would take the X first on Sultans of Swing. I would take it over the Bird and the EVO. The EVO would be in a distant third. On Dreams, I would take the Bird first because of just the fantastic presentation of vocals. That album actually is beautiful for the Bird. The Rumors album is really, really good. And a lot of stuff that's vocal-centric. Queen, to my surprise, actually put the X over because I went with this track because when listening to other tracks, I thought, God, that sounds big. And then when they started doing the snaps and everything coming, I just thought, this just sounds really huge, but it's not. It's just the effect that they're putting on, and the X was like giving me that. And then I listened to the Bird, and no. Listened to the EVO, and everything's just big like it was on Dreams. The EVO is going to give you a presentation that is fun, but mentally fatiguing in the sense that it's slightly unnatural. If people tell you that that graph that you're looking at is not correct or it doesn't sound like that, let me disagree with them right now. Graphs don't lie. They don't. People are full of shit. People have biases. People who say I'm not influenced by the fact that I got this item for free or whatever. Everything mentioned in this, I paid $3,695 for that. So I got a slight teeny discount of $4,395 for the X. I paid $5,690, I think, for the Bird, slight tiny discount. I paid $3,300 for the EVO. Paid full price for all of them. I'm evaluating these as a buyer by my will and with happiness. The worst thing of this whole experience was opening that little jar up with those very beautiful shells laying right on each other with the 4.4 right next to them. They were not separated or wrapped cleverly. The cable was just jammed in there. Someone's going to show this to Jack, and man, you better fix that because these are expensive, and someone's going to say, mine came with a scratch. It's destiny that happens. I can't believe, actually, let me go ahead and go back into here. Before we leave. So you're going to get this with the X, separated as it should be. Then you've got the Bird, which is $6,000, and people laugh at its presentation. Those shells are individually plastic wrapped. They can't even get fingerprints on them, and they are separated by this clever little doodad. Unique Melody does the same thing with their cases. The shells don't touch each other. And this thing, in this little jar, exists $3,000 buds and the cable and the termination all stuck together. If there was a terrible fail with mine, I'd like someone to send me mail and tell me. Because if this is, please stop. If everything you send out from this time forward, put something in between. Wrap the 4.4 in a piece of something, even plastic. And ideally, you would be wrapping the buds separately, because these are wrapped and they're not even touching. These are not wrapped and they are touching. If you guys think that's too much time spent on packaging, you've never spent $4,000 on earphones. I have several times. I don't mind. I'm okay with it. But don't make me look at the box and think, where's the buds? Is everything in here? Pull it out. Yeah, everything's in there. And then to my horror, see these marks right here? That bend and these little finger. If you guys know me, I got OCD. I pay very close. People that have gotten stuff that I've sent to them that are, it comes like it came brand new. This came ghetto grease marks on it that I tried to rub off with a piece of cloth because I thought it was finger grease. Wouldn't come off. This looks ghetto. Open this. Look at that. Is that really in there? It really was. So it started out bad, but it's all about the music. And based on the music, I would recommend probably that you would take the X as the safest all-around bet because it's going to do everything well. I would say that the Bird is always going to be a little bit light on the bass, but I don't think anything touches it when it comes just to pure vocal acoustic presentation. It's just epic. It's amazing that they charge some. It's like the SUSVARA. $6,000 for a headphone and you think there's no fucking way, and then you listen to the SUSVARA and you think yes fucking way, and then you're okay with it. And then they do the same thing with IEM. So you think that pricing is all bullshit, and I think 90% of the time it is, but sometimes when they nail it, they do. The SUSVARA is the headphone version. The Traillii is the earphone version. It's the most expensive, and in some ways it is the best. This person, I will take. Let me open these up again one more time. Beautiful set. Absolutely fantastic. 6,000. Are you crazy? I must be, because I love it and I wreck it. And the overall kingpin, because it's the safest overall, would be the Elysian Acoustic X. I'll leave you guys with that. That's my review. I used music. I used Dire Straits, Sultan of Swing to explain mid-bass. I've never been argued with up to this point. I use rumors to explain the vocal harmonics and how they can get emphasized in that specific moment at 16 seconds to 23 on the regular release of the Rumors LP. Please go check it out. And then Queen, Crazy Little Thing Called Love. How the bass and also the vocals and the extension, particularly on this set, the Elysian Acoustic in this region, can kind of give and allow for what they produced in, which is sounds like a large room echo kind of. It's interesting. I'm hoping a producer comes in and gives me a hint on what they did with that track, Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Queen. And I'm out. Get the X if you can. It's worth the wait. I hate waiting. I didn't for the package, so I'm talking out my ass about the wait. It's worth it anyway. And I think that the Traillii is worth it as well. Can you believe it? $6,000. I think that the EVO is not, and I'm out.